All right, this is preparing materials for the mass media part 2. And of course, this is based on our textbook, Public Relations Strategies and Tactics by Wilcox and Cameron, the 10th edition. Media alerts and fact sheets. Media alerts are also called media advisories. It's sort of a bulletin. They are brief memos on a scheduled news conference or other breaking news event. So these are things that sort of come up perhaps somewhat unexpectedly. A one-page bulleted document, bulleted paragraphs. It says if more than one. It might just be one paragraph in some cases. Contact information, very, very important in a media alert. Now there are two kinds of fact sheets. There's a summary sheet about the characteristics of a new product or whatever thing it is that we are seeking to publicize, and this is very often distributed with a media kit, which we talked about last time. And then there's the corporate profile. This is a one-page summary in a bulleted format of some kind, general information about an organization. In MMJ-328, Writing for Public Relations, we'll cover the particular details of fact sheets, and you get a chance to practice writing a fact sheet. Here's a video on fact sheet. It's a fairly long one. We're not going to see all of it, but we'll kind of pick it up in the middle.
So have factual information about anyway, so why would we use a fact sheet? First of all, who would need this? Would it be it can be a company, it can be an organization, a nonprofit, a business, to describe factual information about themselves and about who they are. This can include history, location, what it makes or what it does, what kind of product it has, or what kind of service. If we, for example, were writing a fact sheet for a cause, then we might want to include what the problem is and what it is that this particular cause is solving. We would also show its purpose in the solution and how it is supported. So have factual information about maybe the foundation of this particular solution to this cause. What are the entities and agencies behind it supporting it? If it was a candidate, a fact sheet for a candidate, maybe what is this individual running for, who they are, why are they running, and of course include credentials as well. Might want to include ideas and biographical information, details that give the reader an idea of who this individual is in the big picture.
Okay, we'll stop it at that point, and she goes on for quite some time here, and so I hope you will watch more of it, if not all of it, and get some more understanding of what is contained in a fact sheet and how to put a fact sheet together. The art of pitching a story. Now, this has to do with persuading someone to do a story for a newspaper, television station, what have you. Getting the attention of the gatekeepers, these are the editors, is a challenge. That's what we've been talking about here, is ways to do that. The pitch is a direct or indirect contact, but I think of it more as direct, with a reporter or editor attempting to persuade him or her to cover a story. It is not uncommon for reporters and editors to get a phone call, pretty much out of left field, from a public relation person pitching a story. Some consider pitching archaic. They prefer the idea of engagement or building relationships, and certainly building relationships is helpful in getting stories covered. But people are still involved in pitching stories, and as I say, they may be a phone call. Could be an email, could be a text message. So let's see this video on pitching a story.
Hi, it's Steve Bustin from Get Your Voice Heard here, and I've got a top tip for you on how to get your voice heard in the media. One of the things a lot of businesses in particular struggle with when they're trying to get their voice heard in the media is knowing which journalists to approach. Now the key here is thinking not about the journalist or even the outlet they represent, but the audience you are trying to reach. Who is it you need to hear about this story? In particular, who are your potential customers? And think about the media outlets that they consume. What do they read? What newspapers, what magazines? What do they watch? What do they listen to? Which blogs do they read? Which websites do they visit? And those should become your media targets. Now, if you don't know, ask your existing customers. It can be a really interesting thing to ask them. Just out of interest, which newspaper do you read of a morning? Or which trade press do you tend to pick up? Or which blogs do you follow? Because if your customers are reading certain media outlets, then chances are your potential customers are too. Another thing to do is when you're visiting a conference or a business exhibition or trade show, have a look around the stands and look for the trade media. Go to the press office, there's always a press office at these shows, and ask which journalists are in today, and maybe see if you can introduce yourself to them. Because actually then again you'll get a feel for which press, which media are covering your sector.
Okay, we'll stop him there, but he's again talking about building relationships as being helpful in this. A cold call is tough. You're just calling somebody almost at random and hoping to interest them in a story. So the building relationships is certainly helpful. Also, he's talking there about reaching the media that are the best match for your client. So if you're involved in some sports-oriented thing, then you would be obviously targeting sports media and so on. Guidelines for pitching by email: use a succinct subject line and don't be gimmicky. Don't try to be too cute. Keep the message brief, certainly. Don't send blast emails to large numbers of editors. They're turned off by seeing a large number of recipients. Oh, this went to 200 people. So, I don't have any particular interest in it myself. I'm one of 200 or whatever the number might have been. Send a tailored email pitch to specific people. So if you can personalize it, and indicate that you understand what they do and their organization, and then explain why that organization should be interested in this story. Again, what's in it for me? That's a great way to go. Establish an email relationship. The best emails come from people I know, says one person in the textbook. So if you have a good relationship, if you're building relationships with media, they come to trust you and know that when you send something to them, there's a good chance that what you have will be good for them to use. Tapping into media queries: often journalists are seeking information and names of people to interview. This is a great position to be in when they're contacting you. ProfNet is a service, and this is from the PR Newswire that we have talked about, that list experts and organizations they represent, and it's great to be obviously listed on ProfNet, and that will send people to you for interviews and contacts. Many universities maintain a list of experts in various subject areas. That's also helpful and a good thing to create if you're doing public relations for a university. Media interviews: a great deal of media coverage comes from reporters contacting the PR office and arranging an interview with an executive or expert. That's what we were talking about just a moment ago, really. The PR practitioner then should prepare the interviewee to say things that will inform or entertain the reporter's audience. So public relations people have a role in preparing someone to be interviewed by the media. The PR professional should learn the purpose of the interview and assemble facts that will be relevant and useful, and then provide tips on the interviewer's style. and that presumes that you know the style, but if you can learn that and maybe do a bit of research if you don't know it already, is this a hard sort of approach or a soft approach? That's helpful to know going in. And then there are news conferences, also called press conferences. Most news conferences are positive in intent. They are projecting plans for a new product or goals and plans for a campaign. They are carefully planned and scheduled well in advance. And then, however, PR professionals also deal with unanticipated, controversial situations. Remember, we covered conflict management and crisis situations recently. So this would be a news conference that was fairly hastily organized. The spokesperson should have a carefully composed statement to open the news conference, whether it is something that is promoting a new product or what have you, or whether it's more of a crisis type situation, but especially in a crisis type situation, a carefully composed statement to open the news conference. Create an atmosphere of cooperation and project a sincere intent to be helpful. So we don't want to be confrontational, avoid appearing resentful of questioning or displays of bad temper. Planning and conducting a news conference. One good question to ask is, should we hold a news conference or not? And very often the answer is no. Do you have someone you want to put in front of reporters, and especially in a crisis situation, and are you confident that person's going to be able to handle himself or herself in front of those reporters? And are you going to make the situation better by doing this? Sometimes the answer is no. PR professionals should assess whether the information can just as effectively be distributed through a news release or a media kit. If the answer is yes, when is the best time for media organizations to participate in a news conference? What are their deadlines? I've got a video I'm going to show you. I don't know if that's the best location for that link. We'll continue. Well, let's go ahead and look at that video, and then we've got some key tasks to talk about. But if we decide we want to have a news conference, press conference, then we need to provide it at a convenient time for the media organization.
Glossophobia. Say it with me. Glossophobia. Do you know what that means? It's one of the most common fears in the United States. That's right, the fear of public speaking. It's okay. Breathe. We can do this. Have you ever been asked? I'm getting nervous. You're losing credibility in me. Losing faith. Have you ever been asked a question in front of a group of people, potential clients, partners, your bosses, and just frozen? The words didn't come to you. Your heart started pitter-pattering really quickly. You stumble over your words. Breathe. It's okay. It's glossophobia. It happens. It happens to the best of us. There's a couple of easy ways to get around it. One, practice your speech. Practice answering questions that frequently come in or that you think you may be asked. Two, write it down. If you think that you know something, just write it down. That helps your hand remember it and your brain remember it because you see it and you do it at the same time. And three, hold a drink with you. If you get caught, just take a quick drink, save your time, and come back to the conversation.
So she's almost done, but we'll stop it there. But this, what she's talking about there is the help preparation that a public relations person can provide for a person who's going to be the spokesperson who's going to go in front of the media. So some key tasks: you want to have a convenient location, make arrangements for the room. Don't presume, even in your own building, if it's a busy place, that a room is going to be available, but a convenient location for the media. And as we talked about, a convenient time. Distribute a media advisory, which we were talking about a short time ago. Write a statement for the spokesperson and then have that person rehearse, which is what she was talking about in the video, and then having a prepared statement at the beginning of the news conference. Anticipate questions, practice answers. So now sometimes, again, time is limited. Things have to be done quickly. But if at all possible, anticipate what questions are going to be asked and then practice the answers that you're going to give. Prepare a media kit with visual materials. And then arrive early to double check the arrangements, make sure everything is as it should be, especially with all of the facilities and technology and so forth involved. All right, so that's the conclusion of this outline on preparing media materials, and we'll see you next time.